Okay, this session is about the elastic block storage option that Amazon offers us. And as we saw, elastic block store is the block storage. We have other options also like object storage and archival storage. And this session yesterday and today is focusing on the EBS block storage. And we'll look at a little bit more in detail of where it fits into all of the storage choices. You can see EFS, EBS, instant store, S3, and all those things. We will specifically having our focus area in the beginning of the session to EBS, and towards the end of the session, we will be talking and spending some time with the Elastic EFS and what instant store also means. So this is one of the most important topics or important services that Amazon offers because of the flexibility EBS provides. So since we started looking at it yesterday, let us move ahead a little bit faster. So as I kept on saying, EBS is not your usual hard disk that you find it in your computer or in a typical server. That is because EBS is persistent and it has a low latency performance. It is optimized and provided to your server. It can stand outside your server and still retain your data, and you can attach it to any other server anytime so that you can move data from one server to another server easily. So it might be easy to think of EBS as an external hard disk, but always remember that it is not as same as an external hard disk. It is optimized and it is persistent. These two things are very important when you think about EBS. When I say what persistent, what I mean is, let us say the Xmark server was already up and running and it was connected to the EBS here, and if it goes offline, what you can do is you can create a new server and attach the storage directly there, and if it is in the same region, you will have a server up and running with all the storage configured. So this detaching from here and this attaching is a few clicks from the console, and you are up and running within 5 to 10 minutes. It is how fast you can set up the console and how fast you can detach and attach from the server. That is how you maintain your persistence of data independent of your EC2 instance. So you can read and write to the data without the instance that it was originally attached to. So the first one is gone, you still can read and write with another one. So this is very, very powerful. In a conventional way, sometimes it gets tied into the application, what is writing, and you need to configure the same application, same kind of setup here to read data from the storage. So you don't have that kind of a dependency when we're talking about the EBS volumes. So how do I create, modify an EBS volume? So let us talk about a quick demo. Yesterday I created and modified, took a snapshot and I tried to attach it to another server. So let us try to do that today as well quickly so that we can move on to the performance aspects of it. So I'm just going to minimize my screen and I'm going to the console that I've logged in. Okay, for the benefit of the new people who has joined here, I'm just going to log out. I'm just going to type in, this is the URL that you always go into, aws.amazon.com, that you see there, aws.amazon.com. You go there and typically you will have a console like this. You choose my account and then go to my account console for logging in, and if you are first time coming in here, you are going to click on sign up. Every time in the new class, I will just spend some time explaining these options, but going forward in the next 1 or 2 weeks, I'll stop doing that so because you will be familiar with doing this on your own. So let me log into my console. So I'm going to choose this option. And it is going to ask my credentials because I logged out. This is my account name, user-friendly name. I gave it myself, and this is my account ID. And I'm just going to type in my password carefully. And it is always recommended to give a complex password that you can only remember and not easy to guess or crack, because it gives immense power for anybody to log into a console and set up a lot of resources and misuse the resources. So be careful when you're choosing your password for your account. And this is the AWS Management Console. And this is a quick search bar that you can use for finding your services. So today we are going to talk about Elastic Block Store. So I'm just going to type Elastic Block Store, and Amazon says that Elastic Block Store is grouped under this category. Let us click on that. Looks like my internet is slow, so it is taking some time to load. Okay, now here you can see that, let me minimize these things, these are not required. So I want your attention to be focused only on these two items. If you can see my mouse on the left hand side, I am having my mouse over volumes and snapshots. So Elastic under volumes and snapshots under Elastic Block Store, I'm going to click on volumes. So here is where you create your new volume. I'm going to click on create volume, and it's asking me what is the volume type I want. There are multiple options. It says whether general purpose, provisioned, throughput. If you remember in the beginning, I told you EBS volumes are optimized. So what it means is, if you want a high input output throughput input output happening on your disk, then you choose this type of disk. If you want output optimized, then you choose this type of disk. And if you want a cold storage at a cheaper cost but average output, then you choose this one. And if you want even more cheaper cost but a very slow I/O, then you choose magnetic disk. It is a very conventional way. If you want high I/O ops, and then medium, and then only read operations optimized, and if it is very slow, and magnetic is very cheap as well. And general purpose is good enough for most of the common purposes that we are going to use. And next option is the size. As you can see, Amazon uses the 1024 notation, not the 1000 bytes notation that usually most external hard disk vendors use. So that is what you see, GIB and then 1 GB. You see this is 100, that is 1000 notation. If you have bought any recently any external hard disk, you will note that if you buy a 1 GB hard disk, you will have an usable space of about 900 megabytes only. That is because they use this 1000 notation and not this 1024 notation. But Amazon always uses the 1024 notation. So let us create a smaller size. Let us say today I'm going to create a volume of 5 gigabytes of data, and this option is by default. I don't have to change it. But if I'm going to say I want provisioned IOPS, then Amazon gives me the option to change this, and it gives me the range of options that I can have. How to choose this option? Let us look at down the training, and I have a performance optimization content that I'll share with you that will help you to choose which IOPS is best for you. For our demo, we will stick with general purpose. And likewise, if you choose a throughput optimized, you will get an option to, let us say this is 500, and you will see the throughput for that optimized by Amazon as this much, 40 megabits per second, and that is per terabyte that you are getting. So let us go back here and change it to 5 gigabytes. And this is the availability zone, that is the data center where I want this disk to be created. I'm choosing the Mumbai region. If you can see my mouse here, I am connected to the Mumbai data center. And within Mumbai data center, I have two availability zones, that is 1A and 1B. I'm going to choose 1A, and I'm going to leave the snapshot ID as empty. As of now, let us forget about what is snapshots. We'll come to that later. And I'm going to encrypt my volume or decrypt my volume. If you are not sure, you don't have to encrypt it, but if your customer or client is saying encrypt it, then what you do is you click on this, then Amazon will ask you what is the master key you want to encrypt it from. So Amazon gives you choices. If you can drop down this, if you have multiple keys, you will have it here. In my account, I have only one key listed here. So I am going to choose this, and Amazon will choose the rest of the options, saying this is the key ID, this is the AR, and all those things. But as I said, encrypt it only when it is necessary. If you think that it is not necessary, if your client is not insisting on encryption, do not encrypt it. It is unnecessary to encrypt it. Usually what happens in a conventional sense is when you encrypt it, there is a small performance overhead when you encrypt the volume. Amazon promises, or Amazon gives a commitment saying encryption in EBS is not impacting the performance in any way, but still Amazon recommends saying do not encrypt it if you don't need it, just because it gives you a good feeling of security. Do it only when it is absolutely necessary. For this demo, I'm not going to encrypt it. I'm just going to go ahead and click on create. So as I was showing yesterday, the state of this is a new volume that is getting created. As you can see, the spinning disk. You can see the spinning icon which says the volume ID that is shown here is getting created, and you can see the state of it is creating. And when it is finished creating, it will say available, and it is not attached. You can see the attachment information. It is not attached to any server at all as of now. So what we'll do is let us go ahead and create a server. Creating servers is a completely different class. Since you are not familiar with it, I'll just go ahead and create the instance right when you're watching it. But don't worry if you're not aware of the steps. There is a separate full-length, in-depth class available down the line on creating instances. Before I go ahead, I'll just show you. You see the instance, volume has been created and it is shown as available here. Okay, just bear with me for one moment. Yesterday I did this offline, but let me go ahead and do it faster. You can just watch the steps. Don't worry that if you are not following this particular part of it, because this is not at all necessary as of now. When we go down to future classes, then we can understand what this means. I'm just going to launch one more instance. If anybody has noticed it, there were two availability zones. I mean, that is two data centers in Mumbai. One is AP South 1A and AP South 1B. The first one I started was in the first data center. The second one I'm going to start is going to be in the second data center. So how do I do that? I just go ahead and choose this one. Let me go and confirm what was the previous one. I just want two different servers, one in each data center, so that we can move data from one server to another server. Just bear with me one moment. So this one is in AP South 1B. So I'm going to start this one in 1A. Okay. Anytime we should be seeing two instances running now. So just to quickly recap what I've done, I've just created two servers. That is, let me just rename it as this one as 02, so we will know easily. I've created two servers. Server number 01 is in 1A data center and server number 2 is in 1B data center. Why is that important? Let us go back to our volumes now. What I'm going to do is, we have created a new volume here. This is our new volume. Let us have a name for our new volume. EBS new volume. Let us say 5 GB. So let me filter it by that. Okay, it doesn't work in that way. Anyway, I'm going to attach it to the server number 1A now. So I'm going to attach volume, and it is asking me which server I want to attach. If I click on this, it shows me this server running because it is also in 1A data center and the server is also in 1A data center. But it is not listing the 1B server now because that is in a different data center. So I'm going to attach it, and it is showing me which location it will be attached. Let us click on attach now. Now I'm going to connect to the server and see what is happening. Let me connect to the server. I want to connect to the 1A01 server now. This is 1A and my public DNS name or the IP address is here. I'm just going to copy this. This is a terminal that I am very familiar or very friendly with. It is called MOBA Xterm. I would recommend you to use this instead of PuTTY. The reason is it remembers a lot of passwords and you have multiple sessions on the top. Let me rename this as SRV01 AC1A. So I just go ahead and double click this, and you will see at the top you will get that, and automatically my key is prompted and I'm authenticated. Let me become root. So guys who are familiar only with the Windows console don't have to worry about these steps. These are the only steps that the system admin for the server has to do. Your job is to mainly create the storage here and assign it to the instance. There will be some guys who are doing an admin level role, or sometimes you will also be expected to do this. So there are 2 or 3 commands only that you need to know for mounting the storage. So as you can see, I'm just listing all the disks available on the server, and you can see that the 5 GB disk that we created is nowhere here. The size is only 10 GB here, and that is the root volume. But if I do an ls block, that is list all block devices, I can see my 5 GB disk listed as like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this 5 GB disk now. So as I was taught yesterday, I'm going to create a file system, and I'm going to create an ext4 file system on this. Okay, my file system is created with this command. I'm just going to create a directory where it should be mounted. So test EBS mount. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it. So if I put a df-k, I will see that my new file system is mounted here. When you see previously, if I scroll up a little bit, when I showed a ds-k output, you just saw that nothing was there, and we have a 5 GB disk already mounted and ready for usage for our customers. So that is how simple as it is to attach a new storage and show it. So I'm just going to create a simple file, simple test file, and let us output. The reason I'm creating a file is I'm just going to detach this or take a snapshot of this. I'm going to attach it to another server. In that way, what we are going to prove is we are going to move data from one data center to another data center using EBS volumes. Sometimes it is useful when you are moving from dev to prod, or sharing some code with your customer, or sharing some data with your some other third-party players. Sample test data. That's it. I don't want to spend too much time creating the data. So that is this. You should be able to, did I make a mistake in the touch command? Okay, I probably created it in the previous location. So now currently I am in the new mount and then I am having this new file. So it is currently of 5 GB of size. Now let us see how we can increase the size of this file system to something like a 10 GB. So what I do is again I go to volumes, and then if you remember this is my 5 GB, remember the tag is also says 5 GB. Let us just type it and see if it filters only for that. Okay, now you see the file, the volume that we created is of 5 GB. So I'm going to select that and then click on this option which says action, and then choose the first option which says modify volume. And currently, as you can see, it is 5 GB. So let us go ahead and make it 10 GB or some other number we might be comfortable or familiar with. And anybody who is going to test it at home, just a point reminder, do not cross the 30 GB limit, because your free account that you will get has a limit up to 30 GB. You can create volumes up to 16 terabytes in size, as you can see here. That is a maximum that you can create per EBS volume, but this is chargeable. You will have to pay money to Amazon if you want to create 16 terabytes of size and do some testing. But if you're staying within the 30 GB limit, you don't have to pay Amazon any money and you can do any number of testing. So it would be smart enough if you guys are staying within the 30 GB limit and then going ahead and doing it. So I'm going to click on modify, and it gives me a friendly advice saying you need to extend the OS file system so that the newly allocated space is visible, and you can do that both in Windows and Linux as well. I'm going to go ahead and click on S. So click on close. So let us say df-h and then our file system only. So it is now still as 5 GB only. But if I do a ls block, you will see my disk has changed to 10 GB here, but my file system is not reflecting as 10 GB. So what I do is I resize it. The command is something like resize to fs and then my device name. So let us do a df-h, and you can see my device size has increased from 5 GB to 10 GB, that is 9.8 GB. The remaining space is utilized, and if you want you can see the data also. Nothing happened to the data, my data is still there, and you can see the file, that simple test file that we created is still there, and it is a completely non-disruptive or non-impacting to your customers. We have increased the file system without any impact to the customer. That is something which is very, very important. Sometimes in real time what happens is we ask the customer to stop their IO to remount it after resizing the file system. But when you're doing with Amazon EBS, we don't have to inform the customers saying that there is going to be a resize operation, there might be interruptions to your services. You can go ahead and do it online. That is very important because customer doesn't have to worry about changing the sizes or increasing their sizes without impacting their businesses. So let us go back to our presentation and see what is there. So as I showed you, we created a EBS volume and we modified an EBS volume. The next few slides are talking about the same thing. If anybody wants to know, there is an Amazon CLI command is also there, which will help you to resize the file volumes during command line, but doing with the console is relatively easy in my opinion. So let us stick with the console as of now until we get ourselves familiar with the console. We will not talk about the command lines. So this is the rough commands. If anybody needs it, I can share it. But yesterday, people proved it to me that they are all more familiar with these commands than me. So I'll just skip these commands again. And people who are familiar with Windows will be very, very familiar with this screens. Whenever you attach a new volume, if you go to disk management console, you have this option, and the new disk will show as unallocated like this. Then you create a drive, and then you extend the volume as shown here. So this is how you do it in Windows. Moving forward, snapshots. What are snapshots? Think of snapshots as a point-in-time backup of your modified data. So if this is your server and if you're having 3 disks attached and you create a snapshot of it, that means that a backup copy of each of your disks is stored in your S3 bucket as volumes. How is that helpful? As I said, this is like a backup, or if you want to set up an environment in dev and you want to replicate the same thing in test. So what you do is you create a snapshot and take this snapshots and create your test environments. So all the configurations that you did in your dev is copied to your snapshots, and it will be replicated in wherever you're creating an instance from it. Not just that, you can do multiple purposes, like for example, your backup strategy can be completely based on snapshots. You can take regular snapshots every day. You can take monthly snapshots. It depends upon your backup strategy that you want to do. So always remember that when you're taking snapshots, your IO operations are, it is good to stop the IO operations. Your IO operations are queued until the time you finish your snapshots. Because what snapshot does is, it takes an exact copy of the data and dumps it to another disk. So during that time, if you have any open files or log files that is being written to, or there is a lock on any file, that particular file will not be copied in full size or with consistency to the target snapshot. What it means is, when you're trying to recreate it with that volume from the snapshot, or when you're trying to distribute that snapshot, you are distributing inconsistency for one particular file. So to avoid those scenarios, it is always recommended that you stop your IO activity during your snapshots. That doesn't mean that you cannot do a snapshot when your system is running and IO is happening, just that you cannot be guaranteed that your snapshot is consistent. So almost always stop your IO and then create your snapshots. And snapshots are very quick, as the second point at the bottom says. A snapshot of an entire 16 terabyte takes about the same time to take a snapshot of 1 terabyte volume. So you don't have to worry about stopping your IO for a very long time. It probably happens within minutes. Down the line, I mean, the next demo that we are going to see now, we will create a snapshot for our 10 terabyte, 10 gigabyte disk, and you can see that it is happening almost immediately. So what can you do with snapshots? Before going to do this, let us go and create our snapshots. So I'm in the console once again. Let it refresh for you guys. So as usual, I am on my volumes tab in my dashboard, and you can see my EBS dashboard. It still says 5 GB. That is actually not correct. Let me go ahead and refresh it. You can see this tiny wheel. Let me go ahead and refresh that. You can see it is 10 GB now. So now I'm going to create a snapshot for this. How do I do that? Select this, go here, and then click on create snapshot. It is asking me what is the user friendly name I want to keep it, which I can remember. Snapshot for 10 GB 1AZ 1AZ 1A. So I'm just going to use the same for my description as well. You can have plenty of description. This is a used full ASCII text up to 255 characters. You can have it. And since I didn't encrypt when I created the disk, I'm just leaving it as no, and then click on create. So that's it. It has initiated the snapshot, and then if I go and click on this option, snapshots, Let it refresh. So you can see the status is pending. It is creating the snapshot. Remember, this is a user-friendly name that I gave for my snapshot, and it is still creating it. And it usually gets completed pretty quick. So what is my advantage of snapshots? Now we have created snapshots. Let us go ahead and look at what are the advantage of my snapshots. Remember, this is my server. This is my availability zone 1A, where my server is also here, and I have an EBS volume. Now I created a snapshot. It is available here in this region. What I can do is I can copy from one region to another region and create another volume. In terms of regions, let us say I am in Mumbai now. I can send the same data as a volume to, let us say, California or Virginia or Tokyo. That is where the Amazon data centers are, and I can create another EBS volume for that snapshot. Simply said, you can move data from one data center to another data center by creating snapshots. That is what you need to remember. You can move it across regions or across availability zones. In a short while, I will show you how to move it across availability zones. Remember, I created two servers. 1A, we were doing everything. We have created a snapshot. We will go ahead and attach it to our 1B server now. So I'm just going back to the console and see our snapshot is status is completed. I'm going to create a volume from this snapshot now. So if you want to mount a snapshot to any server, you always need to create a volume. And while creating a volume, it is saying general purpose. I'm going to leave it as it is, and it is asking me the size as it is. And when it comes to availability zone, this is where I am moving it from one data center to another data center. So I'm just going to choose AC1B now. Click create, and it is started the process of creation. Click on close. Now let us go to volumes, and since I filtered for 5 GB, it is not showing there. Let me remove this filter. So I see that there is a new volume for 10 GB, which is not having any tag, and it is saying in available state. That means that this is my new snapshot that is created. If you ask me how is it, there will be a volume ID will be there, which is from where the snapshot came. Just a moment. So, you see, it was created from this snapshot. If I go to my snapshots, you will find the same ID there. So you see here snapshot ID same. So that volume was created from this snapshot. So now I need to attach this to my server. So anybody wants to tell me how do I attach this to the 1B server? Just let us have it a friendly chat.
Go to Actions.
We need to select it. So I just assume that you're asking me to action it. Okay, then.
Attach volume.
Okay, awesome. So what do I type in here? So since I have only one server here, AC1B, as you can see, I choose this. If you don't remember it, you can start typing it also. Amazon will pick it up for you. I mean, if you have a user-friendly name, Amazon will pick it up for you if you have thousands of servers. That is why the search option is very, very useful. So do this, and then it is showing me where it is available. So I'm just going to click on attach now. So we need to see it on the server, right? So I need to connect to the server. I'm going to the other console. I'm trying to go and find the host name of the server so I can connect to it. So far we were in 1A, so I'm going to find the host name of 1B now. So this is my 1B host name. Copy that. Go to my terminal. Go to sessions, new session. Click on this, put the host name here. I'm using an Red Hat Linux version, so the username always remains as EC2 user. And go to advanced settings. And if you can bear with me, I'm just going to pause my screen, so I don't want you guys to see where my keys are. There are, among other things, a lot of things are there. So I'm just going to pause my screen for a moment. Anybody familiar with Linux will know that we use SSH keys to log into the servers most of the times for authentication. For Windows people, it remains the same. Amazon will provide you an SSH key for authentication. So what I've done is I just linked to the file. So if I click on this, I will have something like a training. You can have a user-friendly name and .pem key, and I've just selected that here. And then I'm going to terminals. That's it. Nothing else to set here. Just going to connect to it. Let me rename this session as SRB02 AZ1B. I'm just closing it so that I can reopen it. See, I have created two sessions here. Is it refreshing? Okay, 1A, which is already I'm connected here, and it shows here. Now I'm going to connect to 1B. So my key is automatically imported to my session, and I'm already connected. Let me go to do sudo-su, that is I'm logging into root, so I have admin privileges, and if I do a tf-h, I will not see any 10 GB disk that like I see in my 1A, because that disk is not yet mounted. Let us do an ls block and see whether my disk is available. So you can see I have a 10 GB disk. So let us quickly create a file system xvdf, correct? Okay, that is created. Let us create a mount EBS test volume on AZ1B, right? Okay, this is just a user-friendly name. You can give anything here. I just given it so that we remember it quickly. And of course, there is any guys will know that Linux guys will know there is something called the etcfs tab. If you want this disk to be mounted during boot time, you will need to add the entry into etcfs tab. And on Windows, I think it is a boot on start, mount on startup is there, a checkbox is there. If I'm not wrong, you need to check that box. So let us do a d-h for our volume and see whether it is there. So it is there. You can see it's a 9 GB volume. Let us get inside the volume and see whether the file that we created on server 1 is available here. It is strange. I don't seem to find the file. Did I make any mistake? We should be seeing the file, guys.
Yes, you should not create file system. Why? Because whenever you are creating a file system, it formats data.
Oh, right. I should have mounted it directly.
You should just mount it.
Mount it, yeah. Okay. Let me unmount it, and then I can create another volume and then do it. My apologies. Anyway, this is not useful anymore, this file system and volume, because it is mounted, I mean it is formatted, it is gone. But I'll be with the console. Okay, anyway, this is how you detach the volume. And while it is detaching, I'm just going to create another volume from here. One B, go ahead, click on create, close, go to volumes. It is still getting created. While this stuff is happening, let us go back to our presentation and see what else is there. So this is what I wanted to show you. I'll show you in a while. So I'm just going to move data from AZ1 to AZB. And another option is if you're having a root disk and you're taking a snapshot of a root disk, you can create an entire server itself. So think of a C drive or a /root, you can create a snapshot of that and create a new server with all the configurations. Sometimes you do a snapshot of your /data volume or your /db2 or /oracle volumes. So only the application data gets moved along with that. So we have yesterday also we have seen the first four topics. We will finish off the snapshots in a short while once the processing is completed. And AMI creation, that is server creation, we will look at it under EC2. This topic is a little bit shared between EC2 and EBS. So we will do the last one demo when we are talking about the EC2 sessions. So coming to best practices, there are four different best practices Amazon recommends for EBS. That is your availability, durability, and performance and security. So in availability, what they say is always use multi-AZ for your availability. That is, you have your EBS volumes, you have your instances running from both the AZs. So in case one AZ goes offline, you will have the data being served from another AZ. So quite often what happens is one of the AZs will have some trouble in terms like Amazon wants to refresh the hardware which is underlying, Amazon wants to do some changes underlying. They give you a notification and they say that we are going to reboot the server during this period, and they usually give a 15 to 20 days or at least a month of advance notice. So you have enough. Okay, we can have enough information to do that. Okay, let us go back to the console. We were doing delete this volume now. Did I not detach it? Okay, let us remove this, go to this and create a volume here. Where am I now? Okay, volume is created, attach the volumes, right? Let it finish. So this one is still mounted. Okay, I was. So this is creating, okay. So this one should detach anytime. So I have unmounted it. So then that should be available to be released later. Okay. Now you see the old one is also active because I was in the same directory and trying to unmount it. That didn't work. So I just moved on to the root and then unmounted. Let us mount the new one. I need to create a directory for that. So yeah, as everybody pointed out, I was not stupid enough to format the disk when mounting it. So anyway, I created a new volume and mounted it, and you can see the data that we created on server 1A is available on server 1B. So this is usually how you move data from one data center to another data center and or distribute it to your customers. Likewise, if Amazon says that in 1A data center you are going to have some issues in 15 days and says that you need to reboot it or refresh it, then you take a snapshot, start your server in 1B and be ready for Amazon to reboot your servers in 1A. So you maintain your high availability during issues or incidents by using snapshots and creating volumes from the snapshots. So that is what Amazon says, use multi-ACs for your high availabilities. And it is not like your ACs are going to be up and running. There is always going to be some issues, some changes happening at Amazon level. So you need to be prepared, and your architecture or your customers need to be aware that they need to run from both the data centers in each region. And this is quite an advanced topic, but it is good to be aware, or sometimes because there's an interview question here saying, can you recover your server when there is a failure? The answer to that question should be yes. There are options in Amazon to recover your server from certain types of failure. For example, if your EBS volume is failing and your server is not able to read and write to your EBS volume, or your instance status check fails, you can take a recovery action such as, say, for example, reboot. Or if your system check fails, you can take a recovery action saying create another snapshot and mount it, and then create another server itself. So these kind of options are pretty advanced, but it is good to know that these options are available, and sometimes certain customers which are having only one server and everything run, every business is dependent on that server, then it is good to use these options to recover your server as soon as a failure is detected. So this is how you increase the curability of your servers. So moving forward, there is one important question yesterday also somebody asked, how do I choose my volumes? I talked about performance optimization and also throughput optimized EBS volumes. So how should I choose my disk, whether I should go for an IOPS disk or a throughput optimized disk? There is in my opinion, I would say start with a general purpose disk for your application, because everything is dependent on your application. We don't start designing things from your operating standpoint or a disk standpoint. Everything revolves around the application and business. So you decide what is your application and what is your IOPS required for your application. If it is a compute intensive, say for example, you're doing a video encoding, that is compute intensive. You do a lot of input, read and write operations. Instead of saying IO, you can say read and write also. But if you're doing a media streaming, that is, you're watching a lot of video, your customers are watching a lot of video from your site, that means a lot of read operations is happening. So that is throughput optimized for you. So Amazon gives you 4 different options of disks for you. That is broadly classified. One is coming from SSD disks, another one is coming from magnetic disks. Under SSD, you have this general purpose and also this provisioned IOPS, that is read and write optimized. Under HDD, that is magnetic, you have a throughput optimized disk. Under cold storage, where your cost is less, but it is very good for a sequential, slow read operations. So as I said in the beginning, you need to start your optimization or performance tuning from your application level. You need to find out what is your application, what is important to your application, whether read write or only read. Then you do a rough calculation or a rough idea like this. This is not a gold standard. This is not the perfect algorithm. This is just an idea. Say, for example, your application is IOPS important. Then you should look at latency. And before I go ahead deep, this is a little advanced topic. If you're not following it, absolutely it is fine. I'm just saying, if in case somebody asks you a question, how do you choose an IOPS? You tell them, I look at my application and I look at what is important to my application and choose the disk. And before choosing the disk, tell them that you are going to use the general purpose only to start with, and then only you will start optimizing your general purpose disk. And if you are looking at IOPS, then you look at latency, that is how fast I can read write to it. Can I wait for 1 millisecond to read to my disk, or can I not wait even 1 millisecond? So that is how this flow goes here. If I choose for throughput, how much of megabits per second, that is if you're doing a media streaming like Netflix does or even Amazon Prime does, how much of data I can read at any second from my disk. That is important for me. If I want to read more than 1 gigabyte per second, then I choose a disk like that. If I can wait lesser than that, then the question becomes cost or performance. If cost, I come down here. So the entire question becomes business and application. So you decide from that standpoint rather than from a technical standpoint. The technology comes at the bottom part when you're making decisions. So if somebody asks you what are the volume types, you tell them you have general purpose, provisioned IOPS, throughput optimized, and these are the options Amazon offers me, and I will choose them based on my application. You don't have to remember any of the numbers that is shown here. You don't have to memorize or by heart anything that is shown here. Just remember you get optimized EBS disks. So finally, the other best practice that Amazon gives is encryption. I showed the checkbox while I was doing the demo as well. We can go ahead and encrypt the disk. anytime you want. If you're encrypting your disk, Amazon says that there is no performance impact and there is no additional cost involved. And also you should remember that your snapshots are also encrypted. What it means is if you're encrypting your disk and creating a snapshot and trying to redistribute your snapshots to your customer, then you will have to give them the keys for decrypting also. So you need to be wise, you need to be thinking twice when you are creating encryption, when you're trying to redistribute the disk. So it is, as I said in the beginning, do not encrypt it just because it is cool, just because it is a nice idea. Encrypt it only when you really need it. And if your customer says, I want encryption, then you go ahead and do it. Otherwise, in my opinion, you don't need encryption at all. And there are two types of keys, as I told you. One is a default key, that is Amazon itself provides you and manages you the key. Another one is a custom key. That is, when I say custom key, you can have a key for your encryption and give it to Amazon, say, lock my storage with this key and give back the key to me. So what Amazon does is it encrypts your data with your key and stores it in an encrypted format. So that is what this means. They never store your key in a plain text format. They even encrypt your key also and then write it to their disks. And data is encrypted and decrypted on your servers, so you should not have any performance impact in the memory of your server. What it means is, as I said, whatever I have seen in my experiences, encryption always introduces some performance impact in my servers, especially in AIX and DB2. I have noticed that there is a small performance impact. But Amazon keeps on saying encryption and decryption of your EBS data in the memory of the server hosting your EC2 instances, and there is no performance impact at all. That is little hard to believe for me, but I believe it when Amazon says that, when Amazon says there is no performance impact. So in summary, these are the flow of things that you need to remember when it comes to EBS. Select the right volume for your workload. As I told you, choose your workload or applications and choose the volume, whether provisioned IOPS or throughput optimized. And then select your right instance. Not all EC2 servers will support all volumes. So you need to choose whether you want to do a compute optimized server or memory optimized server, or whichever server you want. You cannot have an underperforming server and a very good provisioned storage to it and expect it to work very well. And always take snapshots. Snapshots helps you to recover from failures, and snapshots helps you to take a backup and archive strategy, and also to redistribute your data when you need it. And always tag your snapshots. Tagging I can show you now as well. Tagging helps you to do a budgeting. Tagging helps you to do cleanup operations. If you are not sure how much data you have created, how much snapshots you created, you can use budget allocation. We will look into that when you are talking about budgeting. There is an option in Amazon which will group all the cost or expenses in your account based on tags. Let us say you have created a dev environment. While I'm just talking, I'll just go ahead and show you how to create tags. Remember, this is the volume that we created, and there is an option here which says tag at the bottom, if you can see my mouse. So what I say is, let us say this is all for a demo that I am creating. So I'm creating a tag name called name and say demo01. And I can have multiple tags also. So let us say environment, this one, environment, and let us say this is dev, and click on save. So I can search for them using a dev environment. Amazon will understand what I'm talking about. Wait a second. There will be an option for using tags here. So I choose by dev and I can list it. It is not just listing, for budgeting and accounting also I can do this, and for cleanup also I can search for all the volumes that are listed with dev environment tag, and I can delete them also. So cleanup is a very, very important operation when you do AWS. Otherwise you incur unnecessary costs, and also you will have a lot of volumes lying without names, and it will be very difficult when you have hundreds of volumes in your account and don't know what that volume is containing. So tagging very helpful to identify it. If you see, I don't know what is this volume, which server is using it, so I will have to spend time trying to find out from the description where it is mounted, where it is coming from, and all those things. But if I have user-friendly tags like this, so I know clearly where it came from and where it is mounted or where it is attached to, and very helpful to clean up. So if you see this is available, and if you want to delete this volume, I just go here and say delete volume like that. Remember, this is the file system that I formatted and I unmounted. So that volume is gone now. So that is about EBS majorly. We talked about creating snapshots. We talked about creating and moving the snapshots from one AZ to another AZ also. There is another concept called instance store. The only difference between an EC2 instance store and an EBS volume is when you reboot the server, any data that is stored in an EC2 instance store disappears. It automatically, as the last point says, it automatically deletes all the data that you see that you have stored or created on your instance store. For example, think of the small file that we created, a sample file. And if we have created in the Amazon instance store, and if you reboot the server, whatever file we created would have disappeared. I don't have to format it as well. Just reboot it, your data is gone. Then you can ask me, how is it important or how is it relevant here? Sometimes you don't want to spend money and time creating an EBS volume for doing some quick operations. So in that case, instance store is very, very helpful. Like you want to start a server and do some quick operations, very high IO operations, but you are not worried about failures. If you are not worried about losing the data that is stored in the instance store, then in those cases, instance store is the best storage for you. What kind of use case, if you ask me, big data analysis quite often falls in this category. They quite often distribute the computing across thousands of servers, and big data by default is fault tolerant. Let us say out of 1,000 servers, one server is failing, another server will be created to do the same processing. Hadoop is designed like that, and Hadoop doesn't require highly optimized storage like EBS. Any storage will be enough for Hadoop. So in those cases, people do use instant store and do the processing because it is cheaper to do that. Always remember, Amazon looks very cheap, but when you are talking about thousands of servers, we are talking about a lot of dollars there. And when those kind of numbers we are talking about, cost becomes very, very important. And you need to choose very carefully when you are suggesting instant store and EBS volumes. If for your customer data loss is not acceptable, then don't even think of talking about instant store. If data loss is acceptable, then we can consider this as an option. As the last 2 points says, has no persistence, automatically deletes data. So always remember this, when somebody says instant store, you need to be really running away from that because data is not persistent and it will delete the data anytime. This is just a very, very high level comparison. Storage is permanent in EBS, and when instant store is concerned, storage is not permanent, it is ephemeral. That is what it is called, ephemeral storage. Again, you can ask the question of when should I choose S3 and EBS. I think I can stop here because some of the people here have not gone through S3. So I will not do this here. I will do this in tomorrow's class or in the next class. We will just stop it here. And also we are running out of time at 8:40. I think I did a good amount of talking here, so I'll stop here for some questions and some pauses. Meanwhile, if anybody wants to just see an encryption of your volume, when you're creating a volume, I'm just going to quickly show you how to encrypt your volume. Just going to quickly create a disk. Let us say I'm creating a very small 2 GB disk in Amazon 1B region and leave the snapshot ID as empty and click on encryption. For people who have not watched it yesterday or who are not sure how to do encryption, this is how I do it. Click on encryption here. It shows me the master key here. If you have any other keys, as I told you, custom keys, if I have uploaded to Amazon, it will come in this drop down. Just choose this and click on create. As simple as that. It is creating. Meanwhile, if anybody is having any questions, I'm happy to look into them. You can type them while this is getting created. I'll mount them on the server and I'll show it as well.
Yeah, whenever taking the snapshot in VMware, so that time it occupies some lesser amount of file. But in AWS, it takes whatever the value size in 10 GB, it takes automatically 10 GB. And snapshot is very cost in AWS, so compared to in VMware.
When you take the first snapshot, yes, it takes the full size. When you take a second
Yeah.
snapshot, it takes only an incremental size of a snapshot. There will be a difference to a size when you do an incremental snapshots. Amazon knows that you already have a snapshot for an existing volume, and when you do a second snapshot, it just takes only for the incremental or a difference in the size. So if you can see this,
On the top of whenever.
go ahead, Mahendra.
Okay, tell me.
No, I'm just finished. I'm just saying.
Whenever taking the snapshot,
You please go ahead. I'll.
before first of all we taking a snapshot. Okay, tell me.
Okay, let us do one topic at a time. Let me finish this. The last volume is the one that I created just now for 2 GB, so that's a difference. We know that we have a new disk, and you can see here it is encrypted, and it is showing me what is the key ID and what is the name of the key here. And let me attach it to the server. 1 year server, 1 year server should be available here, and it is available here. Let us attach it. So let me go here, let me clear my screen, endless block. So, okay, is it attached already? Okay, let me go ahead and refresh. Okay, now it is visible. So you can see my new disk is here. So as you can see, we have just created an encrypted disk and mounted it. It is absolutely, there is no additional steps when you're using an encrypted disk. It is just a checkbox that you do while you're creating it on the console. And that's it. When you're doing the normal operations, BAU operations, you do as it is. There is no additional activities that you have to do it on the server. So when you're taking a snapshot of this, the snapshot of this volume will also be encrypted. So you see by default, I don't get an option here. It says yes. Let us go ahead and create it. I'm going to choose the snapshots option on the left hand side. And if I come here, I will see my 2 GB snapshot is getting created. And if I go on the right hand side, under the tab encrypted, you will see the first one, the first snapshot I created is not at all encrypted, and the second one is encrypted. So if I have to distribute this, then I need to distribute a key or unencrypted, create a volume, again snapshot it, and then distribute it. So snapshotting with encryption is also easy and quick, but only additional thing that you need to remember is the keys has to be shared to read and write to that disk. To come to your question, yes, the initial volume of the snapshot will be same 2 GB. When I create another snapshot of this disk, when I added some data, it will be taking only the additional change in the disk size. Probably I created another 100 MB of data, then it will take a smaller size snapshot. And since we are dealing with very, very small numbers, you will not notice it. It will probably have it as a default size. You will not notice it when you're doing that.
Okay.
We need to have some real-time data having, like, for example, I created a 50 GB disk and write 100 or 200 MB of data and try to create a snapshot of that. Probably I can use the dd command to create a file, but let us not do that right now. So, is there any questions? So if I have to go back to the demos slide. So we talked about all these points one by one today. We once again we saw creation, encryption, resizing, snapshotting, and everything. This we will do in EC2 class. And in EBS, I just wanted to show you the comparison of when to choose EBS and when to choose S3. We will do that in a separate class. And also there is another interesting concept called elastic file system. I'll show you a demo of that in the next class. Anybody familiar with NFS will know what EFS means. It is the Amazon version of NFS file systems. So we will show I will show you how to do that, how to create a file system and how to mount it in your servers. Is there any other questions available today, or we are good here? Durai and Bharat, I think you guys joined a little late. Were you able to follow me? Durai, I know you joined yesterday.